Hi, and welcome to All the Woo A to Z. We're your hosts, Suzanne.
And Mychal, and this is season 2.
Hi, I'm Suzanne, and I have spent the last few hours having my mind blown. I will share.
Okay. My name is Mychal. What have I been doing? Living life?
There you go.
I've been living life.
She's been living life as a non-wounded person.
Yes, let's just go with that.
Welcome to All the Woo A to Z.
Please join us at our non-judgmental table where we just talk about subjects and share our own insights and understandings on these topics, and at the very least hope that you are entertained.
And tonight we are doing O for Omen.
Omen, which sounds ominous.
We didn't even plan that yet.
No, we did not. We did not.
What are we drinking is foreshadowing.
So with that in mind, as an
Mhm.
omen is a foreshadowing, it can be good or bad. It's actually a neutral.
I think if you're saying omen, you almost have to say for good or evil.
Evil. Do you have to put your hands together?
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
yeah.
Must
With
be
your
hand gestures.
Yes, with your fingertips.
Mhm.
Okay, so there is a wine, a type of wine that does kind of give an omen. And this is, I know it sounds way more woo-woo than it is going to be when I explain it. Okay, so Beaujolais Nouveau. A lot of people who I think the general public is more familiar with Beaujolais Nouveau. Specifically, I'm just going to say the one that we are enjoying this evening is going to be our George de Boeuf, which is arguably the most famous version of Beaujolais Nouveau. But
Even I've heard of that.
yes, and they have fun, colorful labels. All the makers who produce Beaujolais Nouveau have fun and exciting and colorful labels, and there's a reason for it. But I think a majority of people have had that kind, not realizing that regular Beaujolais is different than Beaujolais Nouveau.
Mm-hmm.
So where it all came from is it used to be an end of harvest celebration where all the winemakers in that area of Beaujolais, that's in France, they would do a quick little press of the grapes that they had harvested and make a light, refreshing wine out of what was basically just made. And so it's not meant to be vinified for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what comes out on the other end is something that's super fresh, very fruity, light, refreshing, all of those kinds of things. And what makes it an omen is that it is also kind of letting people know the quality, personality, or how that harvest kind of turned out. And you never want to drink a Beaujolais Nouveau really it doesn't age well. Like I would not buy it and age it.
If it has Nouveau on it, yeah, just go with.
Yeah. I bought it. I
Fresh.
opened it that day. Like that's how I would probably deal with it. I mean, the other Beaujolais that don't have Nouveau on there, yes, buy those. You can age those. They're wonderful, delicious, and amazingly complex and very serious wines. And so the Nouveau is the fun, light, refreshing precursor to kind of let you know what is to come from that vintage, essentially.
And so, not that we planned this at all, but today is the 0 degrees Aries, which is the first day of the zodiac new year.
Mm-hmm.
And the world degree, which is also fascinating,
Mm-hmm.
but that we're drinking the Beaujolais Nouveau sort of as a welcome to spring.
Yeah. Although,
I mean, at least for our side of the planet, spring.
yes, I will say, though, that there is an actual Beaujolais Day. Like people go out and they celebrate Beaujolais Nouveau Day, and that is November 20th. Is typically, it's always ends up kind of happening right before Thanksgiving for the United States. So kind of to kick off the holiday season is when you'll typically see it, and you'll see it really for a month, and then you won't see it for the rest of the year. And that is why.
There you go.
There you go.
So, to go with the O and the 0, I think those are fascinating.
That's true.
So, the thing that I saw as an omen, and I sent you a text, but I don't know if you got it, was the insane revelation that may or may not be true, et cetera, about the giant structure underneath the Great Pyramid?
I saw it. I did not watch it. It was, I was like, I will watch this later. I will watch it later. Thank you for sending it.
So, gentle listener, this is so incredible. And also, I want to preface that it doesn't actually have to be true to free part of us as a collective, if you will, of the possibilities of our past and our future. So, what these scientists have discovered by doing very complicated sort of x-rays, if you will, beneath the pyramid and the pyramid itself. And you can look this up online. Actually, maybe I'll even put it in a link. But within the pyramid itself, they found more rooms.
Yes.
That haven't been ever found before. And then beneath, it looks like literally a power grid that is hundreds of meters below the earth. And then it is drilled in another 2 kilometers into the planet. Me being the Egypt nerd that I am, as soon as I saw this, they are basically these columns that have spiral staircases in them is what it looks like. And so it's kind of like, all right, of all the things the ancient Egyptians did, spiral staircases was just not it. They didn't even do really staircases with landings.
Yeah.
They did like just straight flights of stairs. I know because possibly in a temple, I did some investigating.
Yes.
But yes, so it's just crazy, very oh my gosh, Michael's just dying to speak. And I just keep talking. But yes.
I have multiple things to say about this.
Okay. Yes, I imagine.
Yeah.
And I was like, should we just make this a whole other episode? But then I was like, this is a perfect thing for Omen. So whether it's real or it's not, the fact that something has happened on 0 degrees Aries Day, I think is a great foreshadowing for this year is going to be amazing.
I like
amazing.
Okay, so the couple things I have to say about that are, now that I can talk, is twofold. One, first of all, there have been a number, I wish I could quote it exactly or tell you exactly who wrote about it. There was a book that was written that had to do with aliens, of course. And in it, when the person said that alien spacecrafts have been a part of, not that the aliens were building, but that there was some kind of connection, that there was all of this space underneath the pyramids, like not only just, walkways and everything like that we kind of know about, but then if you went down further, there's more levels underneath and almost like kind of a base, if you will, but not necessarily a base. I'd say maybe like a hub where ships could be stored, would be under there.
So the diagram doesn't look like ships could be stored, but it definitely looks like a charging station.
Yeah, there's definitely like something underneath there that way. So that was one thing. So I not surprised, only in that I already had that in my mind. Sure. And then also I recently listened to another gentleman. I've never watched him before or since this one time. And the only reason why is because he showed up on my feed, obviously, as being like that he was doing remote viewing about the pyramids. Him talking about the pyramids, it was very clear he was not that well versed on the pyramids in general, just as far as like, I don't know what.
Which is why we're not going to have his name anywhere.
Yeah, probably not. But one of the things that he did say was that he was talking about, yes, that there was these further, because he was doing remote viewing for back in time, how they built the pyramids. That was actually what his remote viewing was about.
Okay, that would be super cool.
Yeah, and so in his remote viewing, what he saw was the very base part. So no bricks had been laid or anything like that. It was all the underground work that they were doing ahead of time. So he said that on the surface of the ground, he just saw that people were kind of planning, like you would see a lot of construction sites now, like people just there in groups clustered talking. But then there was this area that they had dug down into that people were way down below digging. And he saw this man kind of come up and his head popped up and it had all this dust all over his face. And he was able to kind of look down. It was this big, huge, cavernous thing underneath where they had these pillars that were drilled down deep into the ground beyond that lower, so the cavern, and then pillars in that cavern that went down deeper into the ground. So he was able then to go into that lower area and look at that, and that's what he was saying, and that was the active part that they were working on at the time. So I don't know if that means anything.
Amazing year is what it means.
Yes. So there we go.
Or as we said back in January, the high strange.
Yes. High strange.
The high strange is going to be amazing.
Yes.
So the only real omen story I can think of is that when I lived overseas as a little kid, we went to chapel in the theater because we didn't have a chapel at our particular offsite base. And so they would have the posters of all the movies. And Omen, I don't know, one of the Omens was one of the posters.
Yeah.
And I would walk on the opposite side of the building because I had to go up the stairs to get to the chapel. But from the poster, I just remember like watching it as I walked up the stairs. That's as close to Omen as I can think that I've really gotten.
You mean the movie or as a life experience?
Just any encounter with Omen. I just don't feel like I've been omened.
You've been omened. I like that.
Whereas you have quite the tale.
Oh, yeah. I have multiple, but I have one that is quite the involved story. That being said, before we get there, so I feel like it's just like, obvious, but why is Omen woo, Suzanne?
Well, it's one of those things that pretty much every culture was always looking for signs of, are we safe? And if we're not safe, then who do we need to bribe to get safe?
Yes.
I mean, I feel like that was a lot of what quote unquote idol worship has been.
What do you need? Do you need food? Do you need plants? Goats?
You want a virgin?
You want
people?
You want
her alive? You want her dead?
You just want the blood? You tell me. What do you want? What do you want?
And you're sure that this guarantees us. So I feel like negotiating with the gods, like the original priests were really precursors to attorneys, maybe. But yes, I feel like omens are woo because it was originally at least some way of trying to read the future. I mean, that was what eclipses were, is like, this is an omen for the leadership in our country. And so an eclipse almost always meant a king will die.
Yeah.
And in many cases, like Herod, was totally true. So I think has an ominous overtone for that reason, because it was coming down to, are we safe? Because even, I mean, if the king died and there wasn't a succession plan, or there were several succession plans or successors, then it's like, great, then we're just going to be in a war for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name my kids because they're all going to die.
We're not going to name them until they get to a certain age, which I think was common for a lot of cultures.
A lot of cultures.
Yeah.
But yes. So I think that's why I think Omen is woo.
Okay. All right. We'll get into my Omen story now. Okay. Like I said, I have a lot.
I feel like we should have music, but yeah.
I know, right? This is another one of Mychal's spooky stories. No, not really. I have good Omen stories too that we can get into. They're not as exciting. Suzanne's shaking her head. Yeah.
I feel like we did a lot of talking about Egypt. Just need to.
Well, the positive omens are not about Egypt.
No, but it's time-wise.
Okay, all right. Fine.
We're not a 45-minute show.
Okay, all right. We could be. No, just kidding. I don't know if you all would appreciate that. So, all right, let's do my Omen story. So,
Once upon a time,
one of the reasons why I've recently had knee surgery is because I had a serious injury to the knee that contributed to the reason why I needed surgery now. And what had happened is that I had fractured my knee. Now you guys know. And this was a few years ago. And the day that it happened, I was going to, big surprise, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. And as I was getting out of my car, and I was already really tired, there was a lot of feelings for me to be like, I don't know. But me powering through and making things happen, like, nope, I can't give in to me being lazy. Like I'm gonna show up for class. I'm gonna do things.
I'm just going to interject and say, gentle listener, just remember this when you're about to push through.
Yeah.
That you don't necessarily have to. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It means you're respecting the situation and the context.
Yeah, I feel like there's a happy medium to that. But anyway.
You did not find it.
I did not find it. And as I was about to turn my car off to walk in, I looked at the time on my car that said it was 5:55. So for those of you who don't know, there are things that are called angel numbers. And when you look at the time or just in general, oftentimes it's like 555, 444, 333, 1212, 1111, a lot of these reoccurring numbers that you'll see. And if you want to look them up, there are meanings behind all of them if you want to follow that. Or you can say it as, especially if you were drawn to look at the clock at a particular time. And I'd also have to say it's also followed with a feeling of there's an importance that I was supposed to look at this time.
Like I needed to make note.
Yes. Note. Take a moment right here.
Be here.
Yeah. Be here right now. Because it's also could be that, you get out of work at 3:45 every day or something. And so you're always looking at the clock. And so, yeah, you do see 333 all the time, right? There's that too. So me being realistic there. But with this day, I saw it. And just so that you know, 555 has a tendency to mean great change or dramatic change. And that can be good or bad. At this moment in time, I saw it. And in my pit of my stomach, I was like, that's not great. I'm not looking forward to that. And I actually took a moment and I literally sat in my car for a good minute deciding for myself, is that a sign that I shouldn't do class or not? I'm like, nope. Still powering through. I'm still going to go do this. I'm like, okay, go to class anyway. There was a series of events that normally would never happen, but there were so many of them that were so
outside the norm
that happened that allowed the event for my injury to happen. And so when my knee broke, I was like, man, I knew it. I should have listened, but I didn't. And here I am. But I also knew, looking at the scenario, even when it happened, it's like, this was supposed to happen. I know that this happened for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but it happened for a reason because it was just so unusual, a series of events. And then because of this.
So the omen was seeing the number, feeling the
feelings.
Confirmation in your stomach.
Correct. Okay. Literally taking the moment to pause. That was the moment, the omen moment. Omen moment. So to get real personal in my life here, I had been married before, was no longer married. And we together, when we had been together, had got a dog, Oscar. The love of my life, little Oscar man.
She's going to start crying, you.
I'm not going to start crying. But at the time, because I lived on the second floor of my building and I was now Oscar's caretaker, I was the one who took him, was that I couldn't really take good care of him. I couldn't get him outside or take him on the walks that he needed or give him the amount of time outside that he needed. And he was really frustrated because he couldn't go and wander like he needed to do his business. And he just didn't understand that I couldn't take him that far to do those things. And I felt really bad. I felt really guilty, mom feels. And so I was like, I need to figure out a better scenario for him. And honestly, because I asked a number of different people, the only person that came to mind that would potentially say yes was my ex-husband. And so I called him and he said, yes, absolutely. And so he agreed to watch Oscar for the number of months that it took for me to be on crutches. And during that time, events happened that while he was watching Oscar, that unfortunately he passed away. There was an unforeseen event that happened and he passed away. The moment that I found out that happened, I immediately in my mind knew this is why I broke my leg. Like, this is actually why. Because during that time that he was watching Oscar, he was so kind to bring Oscar over to my house every once in a while to come and visit with me and sit with me. But I think the other benefit is that he could also come and visit with me and sit with me. And we would talk. And this was the first time that we had ever really had a conversation since we had no longer been together. So it had been about 10 years that we had not talked.
Wow.
And, lots of things change over that amount of time. And so I think there was a lot of things that he needed to say to me that he then could. So it seemed like it was the universe's setup to get all those things done and taken care of before, because without me breaking my leg, that would have never happened. So the omen was not necessarily bad. You could look at it initially as being bad, that, I should have listened to my gut and not gone to class and wouldn't have broken my leg. It's like, yes, but at the end of all of that, there was a positive. I wouldn't say positive. There was benefit.
Releasing?
Yeah, there was things that needed to happen that otherwise would not have had the opportunity to happen, right? So I'm not going to say it was a positive thing that he passed away. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it was a positive thing that I broke my leg.
Just saying all things work together for the good.
Yes. To allow things to happen, but that the omen of 555 of great change was indeed true.
And gentle listener, this came up because I had just this weekend come back from my parents' house, which I told y'all I've been getting ready for painting. And I was leaving and I looked up and it was 555 and I was like, great change. And then I looked around at the house that's, completely kind of emptied and covered with, painter's stuff and ready. And it was like, yeah, that checks. I mean, absolutely. We're here at Great Change. So, and then I was sharing that story with Mychal. And so.
Yes. It's really like, it was an omen for me.
Yeah. And so what are the omens did you get on a regular basis?
Oh, ladybugs. Ladybugs somehow come into my house at the most random times in the middle of winter. I found ladybugs alive and thriving inside my apartment. I'm like, how did you get in here? They seem to be like my little sign.
Your totem.
My totem.
So when we started the podcast, the day that I don't remember one of the markers of we put money down for something or we registered a name or something like that.
Yeah, we committed.
Committed. And we ordered little totem necklaces, like the tiniest little charms.
Yeah.
Like not even a quarter of a finger. I don't know how they made them.
Yeah. You need little reading glasses to see them. Yes.
And Mychal ordered a ladybug, which technically speaking, I think is smaller than an actual ladybug.
Oh, yeah. If that's possible. It is half the size of a normal ladybug, I would say.
Because that was already kind of her thing. And then it's almost like it just doubled down on the summoning of the ladybugs.
Yes. Yeah, it did. It did. And then they just always show up. And so, I went to the state fair.
That's true.
And all of a sudden one landed on my shin on my leg, on the one part of my leg that was like exposed to the outside. I'm like, oh, okay, hey. And like they hang out with me a lot. So ladybugs are often a totem for me, and then feathers as well.
And so talk to us a little bit about the omenness of feathers.
So Baba Jolie, I know, she oftentimes will throw out things and symbols that might show up for you in her readings. Like as she's like, okay, so I'm getting the image of a feather. So one time that this kind of happened was a little bit before Oscar passed away, that she had done a reading and she's like, it's a feather and you'll find it in the most unusual spot, like where you would never expect to find a feather. And it will also be polka dotted, like it has dots on it. So it will not look like a normal feather. And she's like, but this is an omen or a sign. She doesn't say omen. I think she just says sign that good things are going to get better, right? Things are going to become easier. Things are going to become better. And I was like, okay, great. And, but I just kind of left it. And I think it was like a couple of days later, I got up in the morning time. I went to use the restroom and pulled down my pajama pants. And all of a sudden I looked down and on top of my thigh, there is a feather on my thigh that has, that's that description. I'm like, oh, that is not where I would expect a feather to be randomly. Also, I don't know how it got there right now. I don't have feathers in my bed. I don't have down anything in my bed. So I'm like, oh, here's my omen. I will take that. There we go.
And so if somebody in their life is coming across a feather or something, how would they interpret?
I I think that anything can necessarily be a feather, be an omen, and it can be a feather. Oftentimes, people will interpret feathers that you find in strange places like that as being like your angels or looking after you.
Mhm.
You're like you're being protected. That would be, or that someone who's passed on is there just saying hello. A
Mhm.
lot of people will take it in that way, but I think anything can really be an omen. I think it is up to the person who's experiencing it. If something
Mhm.
stands out to you that is unusual and seems out of place and kind of placed there for you, and it literally causes you to step back and take a moment,
Mhm.
I would pay attention to that and pay attention to your feeling whenever you see that or experience that. I think it's your first initial reaction to it that's going to
Mhm.
tell you a lot more about what that means.
And I would say while I don't recall omens, I do love signs,
Mhm.
little winks and nods from the universe that kind of feel almost like breadcrumbs
Yeah.
on the trail, like
Mhm.
you're in the right place.
You're doing
And
the right
I
thing.
and I
Yeah.
think that's one of the fun things about tarot is
Mhm.
when you pull over a card and read and it's just like, "Oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear," or, "I feel so seen," something like that.
Mhm.
But then, yes, also just being out in the world,
Yeah.
something that has been in your mind that all of a sudden you're seeing everywhere, which is also, the mirror effect. But
Yes.
who's to say the mirror effect isn't part of signing?
Yes. Showing you the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is our letter for our next episode? Next letter, please.
Oh, okay. Well, we have two
You
because
have
they're
to pick one.
stuck together. We are going to pick S.
S. S for spirituality. No, just kidding.
S
Well,
for signs. No.
yeah. We'll figure out something. So we look forward to having you join us next time on All the Woo.
A to Z.